Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we'll move right into project trackers, and actually seems like there's relatively substantial movement perhaps on both of those projects. So Jody, if you want to walk through, probably starting with Richfield Springs. You're on mute.
You're muted.
Sorry. So with Richfield Springs, we've been concerned about the EDA deadline. So I reached out to Congressman Delgado's staff, and they were going to initially, once we sent in our second quarterly report, they're going to reach out to him and ask for an extension of time. So I did meet with Madison on that. Ultimately, I called Madison and asked them not to have his staff do anything yet. I also met with Alan Ruffles about the possibility of receiving a $600,000 loan from the county. In addition, as I indicated, I reached out to Senator Oberacker. We had a discussion about trying to get another $155,000 from Empire State Development. As it turns out, and later in the report, they said, no, we don't care what the senator has to say. Well, I don't think they said that, but Keystone, I've been asking for like 4 months to get me a quote on doing the construction documents for the project. So they finally sent in the end of April, a quote for a proposal, which we sent out to you guys yesterday. The fee for completing construction documents and bidding documents is about $23,000. What was interesting is I did receive a response back from my quarterly report from the EDA, and they, oddly enough, said they now have no reason to object to consideration of a time extension on the project. They do want us to continue with final designs and actually have a detailed schedule submitted to them. So they really want us to continue to expeditiously move the project along. That gets back to the final design and construction bid documents. At the end of April, I met with the village trustees in the village of Sharon Springs, the mayor, and 3 town councilmen reviewing the project and the creation of water and sewer districts. I indicated at that meeting there were several things that we wanted from the village if we moved ahead with this project. One is, upon completion of the construction, that we would like the village to take over ownership and maintain the water and sewer lines. And they did not say they wouldn't do that. They said that would seem like a reasonable request. I also asked if their construction, their water and sewer departments could oversee the construction if we went out to bid on this and went to construction. Since they're ultimately going to accept the lines, it would make sense that they monitor the construction and verify that everything's being done in accordance with their standards. They thought that was reasonable. And then the third thing we asked is we could look at the water rates since they are quite high at this point in time. I sent Alan, the county treasurer, a detailed proposal outlining how we could borrow $600,000 from them. Ultimately, it would be paid back with the $325,000 that would be reimbursed from Empire State Development, and another $300,000 or when we sell the property to Andela Products. And then probably the most important thing that's transpired in this whole process is that the county IGA committee met on Tuesday of this week. It was a lengthy discussion, about a 45-minute discussion on borrowing monies. Originally, we were going to borrow it from the CARES Act that the county's receiving. Alan indicated that he didn't think it was eligible under the CARE Act. So the IGA committee actually voted to take $600,000 out of the county's fund balance and advance that toward the project. So that's kind of where we are on that right now.
So Jody, are you looking at this point for kind of a go, no-go decision as it relates to any of the items, whether it be accepting the Keystone proposal, or what are you looking for from us at this point?
What I'd be looking for with this committee, and actually the finance committee, is an agreement to move ahead with the final designs construction documents if the county board of supervisors on I think on the June 2nd, if they approve that funding on June 2nd to the county to at least go ahead with final designs and construction documents.
So I guess kind of open to the floor for any input, thoughts, or concerns with doing that.
Jody, this is Jeff. Knowing the history of this, let's you know, be devil's advocate. We've got, if we do the loan, I think what you're saying is an interest-free loan is what you're waiting for approval to get it. And then you'd have some time to get the project done, 12 months, with the source of repayment is the ESD grant and sale of real estate. If this real estate, the 325 ESD, that's a given?
Yes, they're waiting for me to get back to them whether we want to accept the grant or not. They have a kind of offer that they've drafted and sent to me. I've got to make a few changes in it, such as they have they don't have Jeff Starter down as our chairman. But other than that, they would like to issue the agreement with providing us 325 for it.
Okay, so if we get that agreement, then if we do the work, we get the 325. What you're saying? I'm being real layman, but yeah. And then if we don't sell the property, if that does not happen, and we have $300,000 kind of laying there, what is our strategy there?
Well, we certainly have more than enough right now at the IDA or the CRC to advance another 275 out of our reserves. We'll be getting probably about $147,000 in Corning in the next 3 weeks as part of the closing on the pilot that isn't in our budget right now. It isn't in our coffers. So it's a matter of another $100,000 we'd have exposure to.
So from what I hear is worst case scenario, if Andela does not purchase the property, we have the ability to pay the county back.
Yes.
I have a question about Andela at this point. I mean, I noticed in the report that her location in Utica, the building has been sold. She's looking for a new location, which would indicate to me that consolidation of both businesses in the park makes a lot of sense. On the other hand, she also has to find a location well before there's going to be a building available for her in the park. How do you see that playing out?
Right now, what she's looking for is to try to find another rental facility of about 20,000 to 40,000 square feet. She's working with a company out in, I think it was Minnesota, that actually supplies a lot of glass to her. So she's actually looking at a property with a rail something that they could ship from Minnesota to right now she's looking in Oneonta. She doesn't want to build a building anywhere because she wants ultimately to build her buildings in the Richfield Springs. She doesn't want to leave Richfield Springs. She doesn't want to travel away to go to her business. So she's also asked if there was some way that she could simultaneously, if she got bank approval, to build her buildings starting like within a month. Now she's not going to get her financing in place by then. I know that. But she's reached out to, she had interest in, she has some people from Minnesota coming out Monday. They'll be touring the rail yards as a possible site to put up a building that they would ultimately build, not for Andela, but for shipment of glass. And she's kind of frantic right now trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
Well, Tom Armeo, good morning, a little late. Looking at the Oneonta rail yard for delivery by rail, we've learned, I think, in previous meetings, that's touchy. They don't really want to do freight service to Oneonta. That would be something to work through. I think the other thing I would say is I would still vote for showing them the old diaper factory Arnie's building in case, you know, it's already there. Nothing else is. If some company wants to move in here, receive stuff, and be here quickly, it's here. But I would separate the two between whether we upgrade Richfield Springs. I would vote for that to become a completed park ready to go, and whether or not Andela can put it all together, and her be the tenant, which obviously would be the simplest and first choice for everybody. But you have to run on two parallel lines to keep moving forward.
I agree, Tom. I'm just kind of investigating the commitment there. Larry, do you have any insight in this that you'd like to add?
Let me comment on one of Tom's points.
Sure.
I suggested that Andela reach out to Arnie. She called the business, and I think it's Chris, he says he's the new owner, and they don't have any property available for lease. And the rail siding is in terrible shape and you couldn't use it. So she's been trying to find, for some reason, I can't find Arnie's cell phone number. I was going to call him and see what his story was, because he talked to me 2 months ago saying that he had at least 60,000 square feet to lease out. So if anybody has a cell number, I appreciate it.
Arnie Drogan you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no way to get a commitment letter for her from Andela contingent upon the improvements to the property for purchase?
She indicated that she would sign a commitment letter of intent to purchase the property, or a commitment letter, not an intent, with two provisions in it. One is that we actually run water and sewer to the site and build it. And the second is that the appraisal that we have after the improvements come in at roughly $350,000. That both of those are reasonable, and I told her I drafted a commitment letter for her to sign. I just haven't gotten around to it yet, but we'll have that before our next board meeting.
Do you, Jody? This is, and I hate to ask questions that are difficult to answer, but do you anticipate that her counter or her letter of commitment would be subject to financing again?
Oh, that's a good point.
That is one of my concerns. As you know, that the small, they're working with Key Bank, and they're looking at a small business 504 loan guaranteed program. As part of that program, she's supposed to come up with 10% equity. That's $500,000. And there's a question as to whether she can come up with that kind of cash.
So I just know that this conversation can obviously go on for a while. I think what I would like to see and understand is what we talked about last meeting was separating the commitment from Andela and what is necessary for that as compared to our commitment to creating a business park in Richfield Springs and extending infrastructure. So I think what I'd like to understand is there support to move ahead with the infrastructure upgrades to make that a park regardless of Andela? Or are we still looking at, we really want a commitment from Andela before as a board we're prepared to move forward? So if we could just kind of maybe go around and offer up which side of the fence you're on to give Jody kind of a good understanding of that.
I think the timeline is such that we have to make a commitment now, get the project done, and we will work with Andela and or anyone else that's interested in going into the park.
I would be in agreement with that.
I'm good with that too. It sounds like our risk factor is about $300,000, and that seems reasonable for the project. And the other thing is if Andela doesn't go for it, I mean, if they don't sign a commitment, it's kind of on the open market, and somebody else may be interested in even more than Andela's. And so it's in Andela's court, but only for so long. So I'd be comfortable moving ahead without Andela.
We obviously voted on it at IGA, and so from my perspective, as I've shared with Jody, I think it would be great to have this project move forward in the northern part of the county. regardless of Andela being there or not. You know, if we're not going to move forward on this, then then I think we've already all discussed we need to stop talking about trying to develop this business park.
Mm-hmm.
Patricia, Jeff, you have any, which side of the fence you're on?
I always get a little nervous with build it and they will come kind of philosophy, frankly. So I'll go with the general consensus of people. But I don't have a real clear understanding of what how attractive it is, a business park in Richfield Springs. But I know this project has gone on for a long time, and there's strong support from the community. I just get nervous with build it and they will come. I don't know that they will come. There are a lot of places that we've supported and build it and nobody's come. So that's my reservation.
Thanks, Patricia. Jeff or Jeff?
No, I support the project.
Well, as you know, I kind of have some of the same reservations as Patricia. I'm the devil's advocate, and I like to know what the backdrop is, and the whole financial picture if we get down that path. And what we're really comparing here is if you just went ahead, is your as Jody said, the other sources of revenue to take care of the interest-free debt. That's taking it from somewhere else. Obviously, if there's another something that we'd be looking at, whether that's one of the other primary projects or whether it's an innovation center or whether it's something else that we may need to dedicate funds to, that's a part of that analysis as well. But we don't, we don't have all of the facts on any of that at this point. So generally, I'm in support because it is a positive direction. And we have I would say just more than the majority covered by Empire State, but it's a bit of a flyer.
Mm-hmm.
Could we add a baseball field to guarantee that people will come or not, do you think?
I'm not sure it'll work the same.
That works. Do the, Field of Dreams. I'm up for that. We can title it, market it. So
I'm actually kind of in the same boat as Patricia. So again, I think there's enough support from this board to be able to continue moving forward. I don't know. It sounds like, again, still understanding if Andela does not go in there, what that backup is. And we actually, it seems that Ms. Andela has come on, and Larry, you're here as well. If there's any other insight you have in terms of attraction or the backdrop that Jeff Lord was just speaking to in Richfield Springs. I don't know if you have anything you want to jump in and offer here.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for, again, taking so much time with Richfield's project and the support that I hear there. I haven't talked to Cindy in probably a couple of weeks, but my understanding is this partner from Michigan actually might be interested in a third site at the business park. So I think that it would be really nice to have all of these tenants signed up on the dotted line and for them to have all their financing done ahead of schedule. But partly because of COVID, partly because of where we're at, everybody's waiting for the other person to make the commitment. I think that the worst case basis is you guys get to build a business park in the hopes that somebody comes, and you've got one very solid person who's been indicating an interest for quite some time, and possibly now a second person that's expressing interest. And my understanding is that that company from Michigan does something with plate glass, and their waste product blends quite nicely with one of Cindy Andela's operations. So that would be a really nice synergy there. But I think an awful lot of money is in place, and I think it's a good project to move forward. I had a couple of questions. Somebody, I think, Andrew, you mentioned that they don't believe the CARES Act money would be available to build this? Was there a particular reason why the CARES Act?
I think Alan's review of the latest information he got on the CARES Act was the projects had to be started before the pandemic, and that they were stopped because of the pandemic. He doesn't feel that the Richfield Springs was a county project at that point in time, and therefore they couldn't use that money on it.
Right, it's definitely, yeah, it's definitely not under the umbrella of the county, because the IDA is a separate, entity with, so it's not under our umbrella. So he did email around a list of, projects that have been discussed regarding funding for that money. So it is kind of on there, but it's in there in red, kind of with the idea that it would not apply.
So the other, if you can look at the positive things as to what's happened, if we would have asked, if the IDA would have asked the county 3 years ago for $600,000, they probably would have laughed me out of the room. I think it's extremely, even if the entire board in 2 weeks says, no, we don't want to do this, I think it's entirely positive that the unanimous vote of the IGA committee to take it out of their fund balance. I think it's a positive sign that we have a good working with. So I'm sorry, Andela was.
Yeah, would you like me to say a few words, or?
Sure.
Yeah, hi, Cindy Andela here. Just going to, fill out a little bit of what Larry said. I'm, an existing business growing. I've got 2 businesses up here. And as part of, not only is my 2 businesses growing and I'm committed to staying in Richfield Springs, I think one thing that I've been trying to get across to everybody is that Richfield Springs not only has all the utilities and all the things that needed to put a business, if you have a business park shovel ready, but they have resources and people. I have a great workforce in both of my companies. I want those companies to grow in Richfield because otherwise I lose my workforce. Okay, if I go an hour any direction, I lose my supervisors, I lose my people. We're so busy right now. We've been hiring, and I can find people. I've got signs out by the road, hiring now, and I get local people that walk in, and I can hire them, and their work ethic's good, their attitudes are good, and they're what we need. That's here in Richfield Springs. Okay, if I just have a shovel-ready site to expand my businesses to, then I have to, move them out of this community. I significantly lose a valuable part of the business. So I'm committed to expanding Richfield Springs. It's hard to, say exactly what you're going to do if you won't have a site. I bring the bank down and I show them the site. They go, what site? There's no driveway. There's no utilities. When is this going to happen? So it's pretty hard. It's a chicken and egg thing. Okay. So the banks are like, great idea. Expand your business. We're here to help you. Where are you going to go? So I'm committed to being in this area. I'm committed to expanding in this area. And I'm very thankful and hopeful that this has been going in a positive direction.
Great. Thank you so much for your time today. It does seem like there is support from the board, Jody, to move forward. I think that's obviously contingent on that approval from the county on that loan. And that we'll probably talk a little bit maybe more in the finance committee on. So at this point, if I don't think you need a motion or anything, but I'm hearing from the board in this committee that we are comfortable moving ahead and supporting the next steps in the project.
That's great. Thank you.
And folks, if I might, I'm planning at our next meeting on trying to create a committee from the town board, the village board, the water and sewer district supervisors to sit down and work on these agreements necessary for the water and sewer districts. Jody, I might need a little support, or I guess I definitely need a little support at some point from either you or Keystone at some of these meetings. Is that going to be a problem for Keystone?
I don't believe so. I think if you just give them enough advance notice.
Okay, great. Anything more on the Richfield Springs Park? All right, we'll move on to the rail yards.
Okay, on the rail yards, what we've been really working on quite heavily is we're working with this engineering group out of, I think it's Denmark, the Rambo engineers. As you may recall, several months ago, Tom Armeo asked me to reach out to Bennett Sandler to talk about a community-wide geothermal heating and cooling system. We did. He put me in touch with Rambo engineers who are pre-qualified by NYSERDA to do these type of studies. We've had numerous meetings with them. Yesterday at our last meeting, that's not on the sheet because I ran out of we agreed that Rambo would be actually the applicant on behalf of this project. They're well known at NYSERDA. They don't know at CEGO now. We felt that they would have a better chance of possibly getting a $100,000 grant to do this entire study. At our board meeting, we'll probably have to pass a resolution, and I talked to Joe Scott about this, that given the reasons why I'm recommending selecting Rambo engineers and put it into our minutes. We have received letters of support from the Chamber of Commerce. I've also just got an email from Michelle at the county, who's on the IGA committee, and she's a support letter on behalf of the county's energy committee, and then the chairman of the board or Meg Kennedy will sign another commitment support letter on behalf of the county. So we are drumming up support on this. As part of that, it's kind of interesting how it works out. As part of this whole process, it was suggested that I contact Corning, and I reached out to my contacts at Corning and said, would Corning like to be a part of this study? They had their top energy people get a hold of me and asked me how this whole thing started. I sent them a copy of the proposal I sent to my contacts about having Corning build a new campus in Oneonta, and the response I got back from them is that they would get back to us within 3 to 4 weeks. So that is also still moving ahead, that Corning is still looking at the possibility of expanding further than what they have already announced. Also in the projects tracker report, I indicated that there has been some interest from Al Rubin. He's representing a company that may have an interest in buying some of the property. He originally said they wanted to buy all the property. I'm not sure that we're in a position to, I really don't know that much about the company. So at this point in time, we really haven't had that dialogue. I did inform them, they wanted information on the environmental reviews, the opportunity zones, the site plan that we had done. So all that stuff has been forwarded to them. And I believe they're going to come down for a site visit within the next 2 or 3 weeks. So that's kind of a summary of the rail yards of what's been going on.
So it seems still kind of pretty much just active marketing and seeing if we can get interest in a tenant and or purchaser.
Yes.
Okay. All right, any other questions on rail yards? All right, move into the director's report. I don't know if there's anything, Jody, you would like to highlight off of that hasn't already been covered.
Well, I did put into the report on custom electronics, the 6 new companies that either he purchased or are moving in. So they are expanding beyond their normal capabilities. Cooperstown Distillery, they're going to have a grand opening sometime in June. We'll invite all the members of the board. Paris reports, we've gotten information back on Hartwick and Springbrook. We're still waiting for Templeton Foundation and Bassett Hospital on theirs. They gave us some information, but it's not detailed enough. Probably the big one that we've been working on is I've been meeting with Mr. Brooks on the Brooks bottling plant and his attorney. They submitted a pilot application to us for our consideration. They want to close on the property at sometime at the end of June. So they're looking to try to get us as much time that we could approve the pilot. Not so much the pilot, they really want to close on the mortgage recording tax. We could probably do that without a public hearing because it's under $100,000 in benefits. The big issue with this whole project, though, is they submitted a pilot application that includes 3 phases: the acquisition, the construction, and then the equipment on the property. It is such a large project that we have to have an environmental review done on it. Normally, we take the towns or the cities or whoever's the lead agency on the site plan review. In this particular case, because it's a large project, the town is requiring a little bit more detailed information on the site plan review. And actually, they had to fly air coverage in order to come up with detailed topographic surveys on the property. Those actually have been done. And the bigger question that they're wrestling with right now is what they're going to do with their wastewater. And whether his existing facility can handle that volume of waste. Because of that, they don't expect the town board to finish the site plan review until probably this fall. As such, the IDA can do its own seeker review, but we need a seeker, something to review it. And so he's now looking to hire a local engineer to prepare the long form to submit to us, because without that, we can't proceed. But that project does appear to be moving ahead. He'd be looking at acquisition this year, completing full designs by next year, and going into construction in 2023, spring of 2023. Megan has been doing a dynamic job on the county micro enterprise grant program. I listed in her report that she sent to the county all of the awards that were made. The county approved another one that she requested on Tuesday. And then probably the biggest thing we've been working on, or the newest thing, which is on our discussion to actually have a project tracker on, is what we're calling a Center for Innovation. It's actually a Center for Innovation and Acceleration. What had transpired was Congressman Delgado had one of the college professors at Harvard approach me about building a incubator site. And I explained to him, we pretty much have an incubator site here already. We have our office that helps with financing with various small businesses. We have the Small Business Development Center with Michelle just down the hall, who does business planning, how to write a business plan. She does training programs for small businesses. We also have the Center for Agricultural Development and Entrepreneurialism upstairs that provides all these training programs as well. So we then started talking about what he was calling an innovation center. And I suggested that we meet with Mike Pentaris at Custom Electronics, because as I pointed out, he's had success with 6 companies in the last year and a half on really startup entrepreneurials, and now bring them either into his company or helping them expand into a larger company. We met with Mike, and Mike's comments were, with all due respect, most innovation centers, if you go to the Kaufman facility down in Binghamton, they provide space. Yes, they provide space for companies to have an office, have a phone, have a copy machine. They may help them write a business plan, but that's really it. It's not really what we termed as ultimately an acceleration center. And what his concept was that to pair these startup companies, these entrepreneurs, with an existing business that can provide testing services for them, that can provide manufacturing of their product, that can provide, and the most important one is how to market those products into the world. And that's what Custom can provide to these companies. We then suggested that we had a separate meeting with one of the vice presidents of operation of IOCCRC, and he was interested in joining our group. What's unique about this thing is before IOCCRC and Custom Electronics for the last 3 years when I've been here have not talked to each other. this is like a major milestone because we're meeting every Friday, the two companies, myself and Hartwick, now Megan on this, to look at how do we build a starting of an acceleration center. And IOXIS also said that they have a couple of startup companies that they've been working with that they would like to bring into the fold into this and help with their marketing, testing, manufacturing. Last Friday, we had a meeting with ISD on the new type of technologies that we should be outfitting our offices with. And we're applying for an ARC grant to provide at least $150,000 in additional support. So this is something I think we really need. I think it's a good opportunity to grow smaller businesses. Both IOXIS and Mike Pentaris at Custom felt that it was a good way to attract small companies to our area because ultimately, once they get used to working with these companies, there's an ability to bring them in here. The initial thought was to actually target a lot of the startup electronics, capacitor, high-end electronics companies just outside the New York metropolitan area and to try to bring them into the fold up here. So that's kind of a summary of what's going on with that.
Yeah, so that sounds fantastic, Jody. I think from my point of view, just sitting back and just trying to understand, that's a great synopsis, but are we going to put together kind of a project plan to understand resources, to understand funds, and really, again, what are kind of our key milestones along the way? I don't know, I'll open up to the rest of the committee to see if there's any questions you guys have or anything that you'd like to bring forward on this.
Same, Cheryl. I had the same thoughts.
Jody, I'm excited about what you stumbled on really by keep talking to people and things come up. I think we need a plan. We measure everything we can, but I think you know who's going to win the game until you start playing. And with economic development, in my mind, it's like a lot of my marketing. I have a plan laid out, and I don't know how it's going to execute in return. I just know I have to keep trying to do something. So this is something that we've got some movement on, some people interested. And whereas we can set out a plan, I think flexibility depending on opportunities that pop up out of these conversations, it's almost an organic aspect. And I commend you on staying engaged, and hopefully we can build this into something significant.
As you may notice, one of the things that came up, and we don't have to vote on this today, I just want to reference it with the Finance Committee, is that there was a suggestion that we create a 501c3 organization because right now we can't go after a number of foundation grants because none of our existing agencies are a 501c3. That's why when the Otsego County Community Foundation wanted to give us a grant for PPE, we had to use the Cooperstown Foundation because they're actually a 501c3. So the thought was to have something like the CRC front the money to create this, have the board appoint directors. Doesn't have to be, it can be Mike Pentaris, it can be, you know, a number of outside people that have the expertise in this, but that the CRC board would appoint those members.
So Jody, are you looking to create a 501c3 under one of our existing organizations, or are you trying to spin off a new organization?
No, I checked with two attorneys at Hotchkiss and Russ on this, and they said that because our existing organizations have been around a long time, that the IRS is really going to question why we're now converting them into a 501c3. And that opens up a whole nother can of worms for the existing organizations. Their recommendation is to create a separate 501c3, brand new, that has no history.
My question would be to follow up on Cheryl and Jeff is, so Jody, you're going to try to put a proposal together with regard to 501c3 and moving forward next steps? Is that what?
Yeah.
Is that what, okay. Great.
Yeah, it's not immediate. The grant we're applying now from the Appalachian Regional Commission, the IDA is eligible to receive that. And that's how we're going to start with funds from them. But in the future going forward, in order to go to the larger foundations, maybe Andrew can talk about this. We deal with foundations all the time. But it really, a lot of them will only fund 501c3s, not IDAs or not local development corporations.
Yeah, I guess I think the challenge will still be the charitable purposes of this corporation. You know, because clearly it's going to be controlled, you know, by the IDA, you know, through I'm sure through the bylaws in terms of how that board's appointed. Yeah, I mean the bottom line with the IRS is going to be the actual purposes, and probably, I mean, the bigger hurdle is getting it through the Department of State, New York Department of State. You know, they're going to scrutinize those purposes. So I guess, yeah, I mean, I would be looking for a better understanding of what the specific purposes of the C3 corporation would be, because I'm assuming, to me, it sounds like it's more tied to the incubation piece, because okay, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we would just want to have some more discussion. So, and I'm sure there's some models out there that we could look at. You know, I mean, the challenge will be, it's, you know, the C3 corporation, it's not going to be, you know, it's not going to be a mechanism where the IDA could get money from a foundation to put into for-profit businesses. You know, that the foundations, regardless of the C3 status, they're you know, typically they are not going to invest in that kind of activity. You know, but the incubation center itself, as a charitable educational kind of organization, could you know, definitely have applicability.
Okay, so it looks like we will look for a proposal, Jody, at the next committee meeting that just really kind of outlines a little bit more of what the plan is, what our resources and our funding and input would be, and what the direction would be overall. So sounds like something exciting to get involved in.
Okay. The last thing I wanted to bring up is that we did have some discussion about doing housing pilots. I did collect information from Broome County, from Tioga County, Tompkins County, City of Ithaca. They all issue pilots for housing projects. Joe Scott was on vacation last week, so he was supposed to also send me some copies of other ones that his firm uses. I haven't received those yet. My suggestion is going to be that we do some type of housing pilots. The big question is going to be either for new construction or for renovation of buildings that are underutilized. The big question is that I'm wrestling with is what is the dollar amount of the improvements? I mean, you could do one for $10,000, you could do one for $100,000, you could do one for $250,000. There really should be a threshold, because otherwise it doesn't make sense to do a pilot if it's such a small project. The other item that I'm wrestling is how many units. I think it should be at least 10 or more units. But again, I'm waiting for Joe's to get me some other information on that. But I do think that there is a definite need for housing, and if we can provide some type of assistance. Like I said, the other 4 counties that I referenced, they're currently doing them. And they have that criteria as to abandoned buildings, underutilized buildings, number of units, and cost. I mean, it's really going to boil down to how much investment is being made.
Right.
Jody, are you going to be putting these examples into some form of matrix for us to review?
Yes. Yes. Right now, I
Okay.
sent to the projects committee all the examples that I've gotten so to date. It's kind of cumbersome to read through, so I don't expect everybody to do that. But I just wanted to keep the committee aware that I was moving ahead and working on this.
Yeah, thank you.
Same question, Jeff. And I think obviously there's definite precedent to create our own policy in our own format for the same kind of pilot. So,
Great.
Jody, can we also bring into this to that analysis the, you know, I just wondered, back in 2018 there was the housing study, and I can't remember. I mean, didn't the IDA actually pay for a housing study? It was Nova Gradac.
Yeah, for the city of Oneonta.
Yeah, I remember it had some questionable value, but maybe this might be a good time to dust that off as well.
Yep, I have it in my desk. I will pull that out. The very last thing I have on on my list is the NextAmp solar project. Dave Bliss received a letter from this company called NextAmp that they want to build I think it's a 6.2 megawatt solar field at Hartwick. He responded to them 2 days ago, or I believe, that indicated that the county does want to do a pilot, and that he's recommended they contact our office to negotiate a pilot on behalf of the county. It's relatively a small project, but again, I think what this indicates is that the county recognizes that we're here to help with county business. So that's the most positive thing that's come out, again, besides the IGA recommending borrowing money from the fund balance. The chairman is actually referring projects to us to work on behalf of the county.
Okay, great. Is there anything you need from us on that, Jody?
Not yet. I sent a copy of the letter to Joe Scott just to keep him informed. But again, there's really nothing to do until they contact us about a pilot.
Have they purchased property? Or are they
I don't know. They just didn't. I think they did not purchase the property. I think they're building on that. I don't know.
Hartwick College owns significant property up. Suncrest Terrace, of course, is a major residential area. And then above that, Hartwick College owns significant amount of property. So I'm wondering if they're looking at property on the Hartwick campus for that, or that's owned by Hartwick. So.
That was my understanding, but I haven't, other than the one letter that just referenced what they're planning on doing. It didn't give specifics. The map they sent is actually non-readable.
Oh, great. Cheryl, I just have one question. I don't know if Jody can speak to it, but you sent us a notification with regard to MetaCoach. Is there anything you can mention on that, or purchase?
No, I reached out to their attorneys. They actually contacted me about a pilot agreement or some benefits. The problem with it, and I explained to the attorney that right now they're just looking at the acquisition. They're really not looking at, on phase one, expanding their manufacturing capability. So the benefits for them that the IDA would give is kind of minimal, and the fees that we would charge would probably be higher than what they would get in a return. They were going to do an analysis and get back to us, and I haven't heard from them. I know that I'm looking. I think Kurt contacted Megan about clearing up some of the outstanding liens on the property, and we were working on that. So it's still moving ahead. But basically, the company is a company that is headquartered in New Jersey. They do fragrance development, and I guess they do it internationally. They have a pretty wide market. Initially, they'll probably be, I think, 12 people up here, not a large group.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other new or unfinished business? All right, if not, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Thanks,
Tom,
Dave.
second.
Thanks, Tom. All right, meeting is adjourned, and we'll move into the finance meeting. Jeff, you're up.
Okay, thank you. So skip the opening comments, move into the review. Hopefully you've all gotten the April 8th Audit and Finance Committee minutes and have had an opportunity to review them. If there are any questions or comments, please address it. And otherwise, I'd look for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. This is Cheryl.
I'll second.
Sure. All right, Dave, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, then the payment of the bills. You can see you've received a list of the listed as checks, but you can see the list of bills there. You can see that primarily standard operating expenses. We did have the paper kite payment for the marketing campaign, and then an additional insurance bill, which were the outliers from normal operating, but obviously things we were all well aware of. And also you have attached to that the deposits for the month, which show you the pilot application fee, normal loan payment, and a couple of rental payments there. So if there are no questions on that, look for a motion to pay the bills.
I'll make that motion, Josh.
Thank you, Josh.
Tom?
Second.
Tom.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you. Now, review of financial statements. You've also received the income statement and the balance sheets through April. Hopefully you've looked at those. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments on those financials. Okay. I do have just one comment. If you look at the P&L or the income statement, there was, let me find it here. I'm looking at the variances basically, and I think I'm just wondering if it's a timing issue with respect to administrative fees. We showed for January through April $200 in administrative fees, and January through April of 2020 we were over $10,000. Just curious if that's just a timing issue on billing and collection.
No, Megan and I had a discussion about that yesterday. We've been so busy that a number of things that we probably should have done haven't been done. So annual pilot payments, Megan just sent out this past week to all the companies. Normally, we would have done them probably in January.
Yep.
I also haven't sent out our county bill. I've got to do the contracts with the county for the other $63,750,000 the county has appropriated for our agency. We don't have that in yet. We still have to submit a request to get reimbursement for the railroad project. That's another $150,000 actually, but and then we actually haven't billed ourselves. We haven't billed the CRC for the annual payments for the $42,905. So that all totals about $280,000 in revenues that is outstanding that we haven't billed yet. So we're working on that right now.
Okay, so for whatever reason, for lack of, it is a timing thing. So we'll see this catch up. All right. Good. Anybody else have any thoughts or comments? No.
Nope.
Okay. Thank you. Jody, you want anything you want to indicate on the budget report that you sent out besides those comments you just made?
You're on mute, Jody.
No, we're right now showing a deficit of year to date of about a little $100,000. But as I indicated, that we still have outstanding almost $300,000 in income that we haven't billed for yet, and that'll go out this month.
Yep. All righty. Thank you. So now we'll transfer into new and unfinished business. I think we've at least talked about two of the three, all three of the Richfield Springs items. I think we're looking for, at this point, an authorization to move forward with the Keystone contract, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
That would be correct. I would recommend that we bring it to the full board at our next board meeting for approval.
Mm-hmm. Now, as I read that, that is an estimated fee and subject to actual billing of hours. So is this considered to be a cap, or?
I'm going to request that it cap at that amount.
Okay.
A maximum fee of up to $23,025. Hopefully it'll come in less, because there's some items on there that he's listed that I don't think is necessary at this point in time to perform.
Okay, any other discussion?
We don't need a motion on that at this point from the committee?
No. Just
Okay.
to let the committee know that we'll bring it up at our next board meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay. There's no other. Go ahead, Joey.
I was going to say the next one is kind of an odd one. The city of Oneonta, the mayor has been in contact with a company called Business View Magazine. And they are doing a 8 to 10 page article on the city of Oneonta. They pick 3 or 4 cities, small cities in New York State, and are doing stories on them. As part of that process, they've reached out to, I believe, myself and the chamber running an ad in their magazine. A quarter-page ad costs $1,250. Now, I'm not sure. I'm not a big fan of magazine ads, and they wanted a decision by yesterday. And I said, this is. I know the committee has been pushing me to do additional marketing. I'm just not convinced that running an ad in this magazine is going to make a difference. I think the mayor is really pushing it because this is his glory to fame these last 6 months here. But if the board wants us to go ahead with this, I'll pay for it.
I'd be very cautious about spending money in print advertising. You know, I of any kind, anywhere. You know, this outfit is going to do the stories. Well, they're going to do a story that they can sell some ads enough to pay for it, make a profit, and then write the stories. And whether anything gets, you know, I would be dubious about that investment.
I'm with you, Tom.
Yeah, what is Business View Magazine? That's the, I mean, does anybody see it?
Until they said they're doing a story on the city of Oneonta, I never heard of them.
Yeah,
I've never heard of it.
I think that's your answer.
Cheryl, you don't have a stack of business views on your desk? Is that what you're
I
saying?
do not.
The next one.
And better yet, Cheryl, if you have a stack of them on your desk, can you tell me one single quarter-page ad that was in there?
I think we have our answer.
I think we'll pass on that one. The innovation and acceleration, I think you kind of talked about that. Is there anything further there?
Right. We don't need a decision today. I just want to let the board know that we're looking at that, and we'll get back to you with a formal proposal on that.
Yep.
And then the next one is I'm anticipating. Right now, the New York State Empire Development Council is planning on holding their annual conference in Cooperstown this year. In the past, we've always sponsored one of their opening events. In the past, it was $5,000. And I'm assuming that the board wants us to go ahead and sponsor one of the receptions again this year. We did not last year because it was viral. And to be honest, I did not budget that for this year because I didn't think the pandemic was going to be in a state where they could have a conference with 500 people.
Do we know the date of this?
I think it's September 28th.
I don't think there's any question they're going to be able to have a group of people by September. So
I think with all that's going on in economic development currently, what's bubbling up and working with the state and other entities that would be there, you know, it's an investment that the relationships matter. And that's what this business, a lot of it's relationship marketing. So I think I would be for it.
I would also support it.
Can we require that Cooperstown Distillery be involved or not?
Well, I remember my first year here. I won't pick on the board member who told me, yelled at me, but he said, "This is in our backyard. We should be funding this."
Yeah, I support it also, so.
Yep.
Okay. That's all I have. So.
Okay. So I hear general support for that, so we'll be moving forward there. Is there anything else that anyone else would like to bring forward? No? Okay. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will make that motion.
Is there a second?
Your
Yep.
second.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank
Have a good day,
you.
guys.
Bye.
Take
Great
care.
Everybody have a good day. Bye-bye.